Hi guys, Paul here, and this is going to be a first look at the SkyZone V02 goggles, and these were sent out by FPVmodel.com. Jason sent these out for us to actually have a look at and do a follow-up review on these and just share our thoughts with you guys. So that was very, very nice of them to actually send this out. Now these don't come in packaging because the packaging I don't believe is actually completed at this point in time. So what they actually sent them out in was the original packaging for the SkyZone V1s. So hence why no unboxing. I do actually like unboxings, but anyway, this is what you actually get with it. Instructions. I've actually printed these out from the website, so hopefully these are reasonably accurate. There are some typos, etc., but I assume they're going to be fixed up. So anyway, what we'll do is actually run through these goggles and give you a first look and impressions in terms of what we think of them. Now firstly, just going over the actual layout of these goggles. I'll get the old ones up so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. They're pretty similar. The shape is obviously changed. You can see the camera on the front has actually changed. Surprisingly, looking at these two, that does look like a step down as far as cameras go, but it's actually not. It's actually a really good camera, way better than this one, and it's not as wide angle as this one was. This was extreme, and so the forward facing camera is actually quite good on this new version. They've actually upgraded it quite significantly. You'll also notice this is actually gone. This is the version 1s. They've actually got that joystick which adjusts your contrast and brightness. So that's no longer on the front of this one. It's all done through the actual menu internally. And for the underside, as you can see, we've still got the IPD adjustments. That hasn't changed. But if you have a look here, we've got the addition of memory card slot and also USB, which will allow you to access the memory card content, I believe. I haven't tried that as yet. I assume that would also be used for firmware updates, etc. And on the other side, pretty much the same as the other ones, you've got your head tracking, and that hasn't changed at all. So looking at the eye cup assembly on these are the version 1s, and we have our version 2s. They've gone to a single piece eye cup, and it's going to depend, I suppose, on your head shape, how well these fit. Jason reckons these fit in better. I know they definitely fit me better. On these older ones, I had a little bit of light leakage through here sometimes, and with this I'm getting no light leakage at all through there, but I do get a smidgen just through the sides, but that's about it. So they're actually working quite well. The other thing to keep in mind, interestingly, is when they put these straps on, they still put them on the wrong way around. The power jack is over here, or the power input, and this is where you actually mount your battery. And they actually have the strap on the wrong way around. So they're still doing the same thing. As you can see, they come out quite easily, so you can swap them around in a couple of minutes. So just keep that in mind too. And obviously we have our diversity receiver antennas at the front, exactly the same as the old ones. Okay, so we also have included the transmitter. And what I'll do is just show you the transmitter size so you can actually compare it. So that's the comparison with a board camera to give you an idea of the actual size of it. So it's not too bad. It is definitely bigger, but it's not massive. And keep in mind that's essentially got two 5.8 gigahertz transmitters built in. So we also have our cameras, our video camera, which is our stereo video camera. And look, that seems to work quite well. I've tried these out already inside the house. Thomas hasn't tried these yet because he's not going to try them until we actually go for a fly with these. He's going to try them for the first time on a quad and see exactly how he goes with them. So that'll be interesting. But the 3D looks exactly the same as what you see on a normal television set. Lag doesn't seem to be an issue, and they're working quite well. So I had to walk around in the house with these, and they were quite interesting because it just looks like normal 3D, and that's something that you can't actually, I suppose, demonstrate on video. But it's going to be interesting to see how that translates in flight, whether this is gimmicky or whether this actually works, or how well it works. But anyway, so that's also included too. We also have our power cables and connectors, which will connect these two guys together. A couple of servo cables, power cable if you're running a battery off these. Now I actually have I have a 2S battery like so that I use, and I just have that connected up in here, much like the Fat Shark. So that's the configuration that I run in. And finally we have these guys, and essentially what these are is your head tracking cables, depending on what sort of system you're using, what sort of radio you have, whether it be a Futaba, JR, etc. So they're your head tracking cables. Now as far as these guys go, initially I wasn't too sure about the fact that they didn't actually have this toggle here. I was a little bit concerned about that because I thought initially this is nice and handy that you can actually adjust your brightness, contrast, etc. and it's always available to you. And this is done internally through the menu, and the upside is you can actually see what you're doing. The downside is you're gonna have to actually navigate the menu to actually get there, but once you work out how to do it, it's not too bad at all. So it's going to take a little time to actually get familiar with these. Now I'll run you through exactly what these buttons are on the top. Now firstly we have over here your tracking button, and this is also your menu button. If you hold it down for 3 seconds, it'll go into your menu mode. We have our up and down for menu selection, and if held down, they'll actually become your volume controls. Also in the 2D mode, this will be your channel. It'll alternate your channels from 1 to 8, and this will do your band selection from A, B, C, D, I think it is, or F, or whatever it may be. A, B, C, F, I think it's all A, B, D, F, I can't remember. But anyway, that'll actually cycle through your bands. And on this side, we obviously have our record, which will record video, and we have our photo button, which will take a photograph. Now, your record button also serves as your menu selection button, and your photo button also serves as your escape button within the menu system when you're navigating through the menu. And finally, we have our camera button, which will actually cycle between the receivers or the forward-facing camera. And I think if you hold down, it'll actually go to 2D mode for you. So that's basically the way they work. Now I've actually taken some photographs within the goggles themselves, and that was quite the feat to try and get pictures of the actual menu system. So initially when it loads up, what you get is the SkyZone screen that comes up with this SkyZone logo, and then from there it'll just go to your receivers and actually view through whatever channel you have it selected to. Now what I've done on mine is I've actually switched to the forward-facing camera, and I've covered that to give us a black screen so you can actually see what it is that I see through these goggles. So once you get past the first screen, the main heads-up display will actually display, well obviously what you're looking at here, its camera mode is ready to go, so I can press record if I want to. Then it's telling me that my memory card has got 14.8 gigabytes of memory left, and I'm also in 2D mode, and because I'm looking through the forward-facing camera, some of the other menu options are missing in terms of what channel and band it is that I'm actually on. And on the far right hand side, what you'll also notice is there is the 2S indicator. Now I've set it to 2S. You can actually specify in the menu what sort of battery system you're going to be running, and I'll show you that shortly. But essentially, the downside with these was you had no battery warning at all. So if your battery went flat, you were going to basically lose vision. Now if you're flying an aircraft, not so bad unless you're doing proximity flying. If you're flying a multi-rotor, that's a whole different kettle of fish. So we ended up making sure and double checking and triple checking that we had batteries that were charged always when we put them in our goggles. Now the advantage with these guys is you have the indicator. Now you can set it to 2S, 3S, etc. and it'll actually let you know when your battery's low. As you can see, my battery's getting low there, but it's still in the green. I think it changes color. It goes to yellow when it gets really low, and then goes to red when it's about to fail. So you've got that heads up display that will actually indicate the battery level. So a big advantage in having that now with these goggles. And like I said, you can set them to 2S, 3S, etc. Now, once you get into the main menu option, you've got 4 main categories you can actually go through. The first one is your settings for your head tracking system, and that's pretty self-explanatory. I won't go through all those at the moment because I haven't had a chance to play around with the head tracking. Your next menu item is your 3D, and this is where you can set up your 3D. I've got 3D switched off at the moment, as you can see there, but you can switch your 3D on, etc. And the next menu item is your brightness contrast settings. And once you go into those, obviously, to say for argument's sake, your brightness is actually highlighted. You can actually cycle up and down with this to go to contrast and saturation, etc. And then with this button, you'll actually select it, and then you can actually make the changes with this. But that becomes quite evident when you actually have it all up and running. So I can't really do that because it was really awkward trying to get video of this. But anyway, and the final menu option is the settings for the goggles themselves. And as you can see, I've got mine set to 2S battery. You've also got your DVR standby mode. I've got that switched off. And then we have record with audio. And you can actually switch that off if you don't want to record audio. And it records in AVI format too. And I'll actually get some footage up of us walking around the house and just playing around with the quad so you can see exactly what the DVR footage looks like. And surprisingly, the DVR quality is actually quite reasonable out of this. I'm not sure how the YouTube compression is going to go, but look, it works quite fine. OSD timeout. Now, the initial OSD that pops up when you press a button that I showed you earlier on, this one here, you can actually set the time frame that you want it to stay on. I've actually upped it to 15 seconds now. Only because I've been doing this tutorial and trying to work out what it's actually doing. So you can up or down that time. So basically, once you press a button, the menu option will come up, and it'll disappear in 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 20 seconds, or whatever it is that you're actually after. Your final couple of options are your format SD card, and that'll basically format the SD card. Pretty self-explanatory. And finally, we have our factory settings. So if you want to reset it back to factory defaults, that's where you would do that. So that's pretty much the first look at the SkyZone goggles. Must say so far they look quite impressive, but we need to get them out there and test them a bit further. And unfortunately, the weather's gone sour on us here in Melbourne, so it's actually been raining, so we can't do a flight test with them. But we will try and get some flight footage up and show you exactly what these goggles are like. So since flying outdoors wasn't possible due to our bad weather at the moment, hopefully we will get some good weather over the coming days, and I can get some flight footage up in part 2 of this video. This is just some footage shot around the house and some shot outdoors, just to give you an idea of what the quality is like from the DVR. Now I am using the supplied 3D camera, and I've got the actual goggles in 3D mode. Obviously you're not going to see it in 3D mode, and that's because when it's recording with the DVR, you're recording at 2D. But essentially this is the sort of quality that we're getting, and it's recording in AVI format, and the quality seems to be superb. So no issues whatsoever with the DVR. Anyway, I'll let you watch the rest of the footage. So as far as initial thoughts with these goggles, we've only tested them indoors, but indoors it appears as though the V02 goggles, these newer goggles, are definitely sharper than these ones and hold a little bit more detail. Contrast looks a lot better too. So it looks as though they've actually improved these goggles and not just added DVR functionality, etc. But anyway, we will get these up and running and try them out. I have actually tried the 3D out, and that is quite impressive. So we'll try and get some footage up using the standard gear, and I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to do a 3D video or not, but we're going to try and work something out and see whether we can reproduce it somehow. I think there might be an option of maybe using 2 separate receivers to actually record the 2 signals, and then basically in post put it together as a 3D video. So that might be an option. I'm not sure how well that's going to work. We'll see how we go with that. But initially we'll aim at getting these tested out on the field and see exactly how we go. Anyway, thanks very much for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it informative. If you have any questions, down below, and I will do my best to get the next video up as soon as possible. Catch you guys later.